Debra Morrison, a 42-year financial expert. Welcome to the We Can Do It Women movement, where women 60 and wiser step into the spotlight and make the rest of their lives the best of their lives. I'm your host, Debra Morrison, a wealth building expert and champion for extraordinary women just like you. For over 47 years, I've helped women secure their financial futures, and now I'm on a mission to ignite a revolution. Yep, showing the world that at 60, 70, and beyond, some of us might be a nickel slower, yet we're all just getting started. And our esteemed guest today comes to us from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, Sandra Allison. Sandra is a jack of many, many trades and an ace in many of them. So we're going to get right to it. She's an interior designer, a museum director, a shop owner, a board member, a score advisor, Chamber of Commerce legislative director, gamer, avid gamer, and she girly. I'm good. How do you say that?
Oh, Shiggery.
Shiggery artist. She calls her professional history quirky because, as she admits, she is self-taught and self-made and completely and repeatedly transforms herself. Welcome to the show, Sandra.
Thank you.
It's indeed a pleasure to be speaking with you because, as you have indicated and I have researched, you have absolutely morphed yourself and your career transitions and so forth with well, it looks like the greatest of ease. I'm sure that from time to time it was a
No.
little problematic, but Sandra grew up as a child of the 60s, and in your words, quote, child of the 60s who wanted to motivate positive societal change. Wow. And not too many people know, but at age 6, she led a parade of neighborhood children on their tricycles through Center City, Harrisburg, showing early signs of the confident leadership that would define her later career. Talk to us about that.
Oh, that's so funny. That I remember things back to when I was 2 years old. I just do. And I was the neighborhood leader. Some of the kids on tricycles were older than I, and I just thought it would be a lark to do something different. So we went on a 5-block ride down Harrisburg, downtown Harrisburg, in our tricycles, and we were quite. I was quite punished for that, but I've
Oh,
always marched to my own drummer.
well, it sounds like it. And I mean, so like, did you like have like flags or something, or you're just like just this parade of
No, we're just a bunch of little kids on tricycles. I did something similar. This might resonate better. My mom went to the laundromat with me one day at a shopping center downtown Harrisburg and left me in the car like you did back in the 1950s, because
yes,
this
you did.
happened in the 50s.
Yeah, yeah.
And when she came back, I was gone. I had taken upon myself to go down to the 5 and 10 and sat at the lunch counter and ordered myself a hamburger and a glass of milk. What surprises me is they served me. And that's where she found me, and I was 5.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. I love, I mean, what little kid didn't like to just get up on those bar stools, right? And twirl around and everything. So a hamburger and a glass of milk, God love you. All right. Uh, so you loved both art and writing as a child. You
Yep.
dreamt of being a writer and an illustrator, but then you realized your true gift was in technical writing. So talk to us about that decision and when that discovery hit you and when you started more into technical writing.
Well, I started actually drawing when I was in first grade, and I've always done artwork, but I mostly did charcoal and pencil drawings. I'd never thought I could paint, which is what I do now, and I sell my paintings. But I use paper to do it. That's a different story. We can segue later if you'd like. I never decided I wanted to be a writer. I went to college for it. I majored in journalism in college. I only completed 1 year, and that's another story. That was back during there was quite a recession in the early 1970s, mid 70s, with the Carter administration and oil prices and gas lines and all that kind of stuff. So I had to drop out of school and help support my family. My father had a cerebral hemorrhage, and I had a 13-year-old sister. So I never finished college, but that didn't mean I ever stopped learning. And I did some writing, news. I wrote for the Harrisburg Patriot News, and I wrote radio commercials for the Harrisburg East Mall. And I did some of that kind of writing and discovered after 2 years of that I absolutely hated it. So I segued into, believe it or not, I got a job in retail at J.C. Penney because what else could I do with no education, no formal
Formal,
education
right? That, thank you.
beyond
Yeah.
college. And that was in their drapery department. And believe it or not, I went from there to apply for a job at an interior design firm, a high-end interior design firm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And out of 100 applicants, they chose me. I was told later it was because of the interview, the way I came across in the interview. They felt I could sell anything. And interior design at its base is still selling things to people.
Sure.
And they taught me to be an interior designer, and I discovered that was something I was really good at. I actually did that for 40 years uh,
Wow.
in various incarnations. But I also, when I moved to Cape May, New Jersey, which is where I spent most of my life, I was in my early 30s when I moved there. Again, couldn't find a job, so I became a tour guide because I've always done public speaking. I used to speak in competition in school, in high school, informative speaking in competition. And so I just took naturally to tour guiding. And I thought that the museum, it's a large museum, could do better. And so my boss asked me once what my aspirations were, and I said, your job.
Yes.
And I had it 4 years later. And not only that, but then I started going up and up and up until I was the operations director for the whole 9 yards. And I had
Wow.
about 100 employees under me. And I learned human resource management and all kinds of stuff. And I would have paid them to work there. I loved that job so much. That's the Mid-Atlantic Center for the Arts in Cape May, New Jersey. It's quite famous. I
Say the name of it again, Sandy.
Mid-Atlantic Center for the Arts. It's referred to as MAC, M-A-C. If it's the Physic Estate is their main house museum. They also take care of the Cape May Lighthouse, which I ran
Yes.
with the Coast Guard,
Yeah,
and
that's
walking
very
tours and
famous.
trolley tours and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So I loved operations. I discovered I loved running things. From there, I came back to this area and became a legislative director at our local Chamber of Commerce. There was about 1,200 members, and I was really heavily involved with government in downtown Harrisburg with the Capitol and the senators and the governor and all of that. Started writing position papers and white papers. And then I found my true calling, that what I was really good at was research and what they call nonfiction writing or technical writing. I did not choose that as a career, it chose me. And when I was 58 years old, and I'll try to be brief, which is impossible for me, but when I was 58 years old, I was fired. They got a new director in, and she didn't like me. And she fired, there were 8 of us on staff. She fired me first, and then the other 7. And then she got fired by the board of directors. So what comes around goes around.
Exactly.
I couldn't find a job at 58. I had aged out of the workplace and without a college degree. Plus, not only did I not have a college degree, but I had somehow worked my way up into the top echelon of every job I ever had. So
Yes.
I was quite executive management level. So nobody would hire me because I was too overqualified and too undereducated. So I
Yeah.
decided, the way I think about things, it's okay. What am I doing wrong? So I decided to learn how to write resumes, to learn how to write my own resume. And I figured the best way to do that was to join a resume writing company as a freelancer and let them pay me to teach me. And they did. That's Top Resume, which is still
Right.
around.
Top resume.
If you want a quick resume turnover company, because I call them resume flippers, they're the best to go to. They're really good. But they taught me, and within 3 months, again, they elevated me and I was the one that started rewriting all the unhappy people's resumes who wanted their money back. So I moved right up in that, and they told me I was good enough. Then I started getting other resume companies heard of me. I never advertised myself, and they kept recruiting me. and each one was a little higher than the last. When I worked at Top Resume, I was being paid $45 to write somebody's resume, LinkedIn, and cover letter. Today, I charge about $3,000 to $4,000 for the same thing,
Hmm.
but it's a different process. What I do is a much more involved one-on-one process.
Right.
But each time I went up the ladder a little bit more until I was recruited by Nancy Shepard, who is my mentor. She's a wonderful woman out in California who works with How Women Lead, a great group. And she recruited me as an executive resume writer when her resume writer went out and started her own business. And I thought I knew it. I mean, I had 6 years under my belt. 5 years. I thought I knew everything. I knew nothing. She taught me how to write board of director resumes, which are entirely different, and C-suite founder, people in the news resumes. And I started working with the highest level of client. I mean, I went from working with middlemen to not just thousand years, but millionaires and now billionaires. It
Yes.
was a whole different switch in thinking and how to deal with the client, and really a learning process. I have to admit, and for anybody listening, take this to heart. I cried for the first 2 years because it was that hard. But she saw something in me, she stuck with me, and the next thing I knew, I started presenting workshops for groups all over the country on resume writing, especially board workshops. I started presenting, I have for How Women Lead on Friday next week. I'm doing a bio workshop with them. I started writing, I have speeches that I've done all over the country for that, for various groups, and started teaching other people how to do it. And Deborah, I discovered that I wish I had discovered this like 50 years ago when I started working,
Yeah.
because this is my sweet spot. This is what I'm really good at. Not only that, but I love what I do. So it's not a chore, and every day is different. And I work internationally. I've done resumes for people in 22 different countries around the world, every continent except Antarctica, because I haven't written one for the penguins yet. Um, so that's kind of my entire career in a nutshell, but I did not look for resume writing. Resume writing found me. And now I've made it my life's goal to be the best darn resume writer in the world. And that's what I'm constantly striving for. And remember, I started this when I was 58. I am now 72. And I opened my own business and left Nancy 3 years ago. She kicked me out. She said, "Okay, Sandra, I want to retire." She's about my age. "I want to retire. It's your time to go out on your own. Do it." And I was scared to death. And I'm still working. I still don't advertise. I work 100% from referrals.
Excellent. Excellent.
I'm sorry I went on like that, but back in the sixth grade, they told me I was vaccinated with a phonograph needle. So, and if you're old enough to remember what a phonograph is.
I do indeed. I do. So, yeah, you covered a lot. So I want to unpack some of that, and I'm just trying to see from my notes how I can intersperse some things that I found valuable, because I think our listeners will find it valuable as well. So you shaped this signature resume writing, which was no small feat, on precision, logic, and storytelling disciplines. So this is really much more in vogue now, Sandra, storytelling. And talk to us about how that occurred to you, in your early 60s when you have Sandra built her own and founded her own resume company called SA Resume Services in your 60s. But talk to us. I mean, that was a little early on to be really focused in on storytelling. What carved that path for you? What gave you that notion that that would be effective?
Having worked my way up through Top Resume and then through various groups, I've worked with I have done resumes for um, trash collectors, they're not called that anymore, for truck drivers,
Mhm.
for middlemen, for people working at McDonald's, the whole way up to company founders and like I said, most of my clients, if you enter their name in Google, 1,000 things come up about them. They're just really high end. And along the way, I learned to distinguish yourself from other resume writing. First of all, because I'm an artist, I design my own templates.
Okay.
So I didn't just use Canva and all of those. I mean, believe me, don't do that. Don't do
Yeah.
that because half of them don't, most of them don't work. Um, but I designed my own templates based on feedback and based on success. If my clients were successful, I was successful.
Sure.
And I'm a continual learner. I never, ever stop learning. I'm up until, I don't go to bed until usually 2, and I'm up at 9. I, every night between midnight and 2, I'm studying something. I've taken a lot of classes. I just finished this week a master class on asynchronous interviews, which is interviewing by AI. When an AI figure gets on there, and it's basically an interview on yourself, by yourself,
Exactly.
and they're done in a whole different way. I learned early on, 10 years, 15 years ago when I started, about ATS systems, automated tracking systems. So what I've been is a real I've really educated myself on the technical end of it. How
Yeah.
people read. I've looked up brain scans of how people's eyes parse a resume when you actually reach a reader. And they actually look like this. They go from top to bottom, left to right, but the whole middle is left out and they only read the top third. Then I noticed the stuff that I was noticing started to appear online. Other people were saying this too. And of course, I belong to 3 resume writing associations. One of them I was on the board of directors of for 2 years. And we talk about these things and educate people on them. So it was staying ahead of the curve. It was making sure resume writing, yes, storytelling in heart is the base of it. You can't just that's what's wrong with AI. It's just the facts, ma'am. And there's nothing to distinguish you from someone else. Storytelling is about this is my career, this is how I came about doing it, this is how I succeeded. It's the show me, don't tell me. You don't
Sure.
just say that, I'm a really good resume writer. You say, I did this many resumes and had this many successes. It's just a different paradigm, a different way of thinking is
Yes,
to
indeed.
combine the two. So there my fiction writing started to go in, well, not fiction, but there my casual writing started to go into my technical writing. And
Mhm.
right now I'm part of the technical group on LinkedIn. And right now we're having a conversation about what actually is a technical writer and do resume writers count in that category.
Interesting.
So constantly looking for feedback, constantly learning. And AI is something that is killing my business.
Sure.
Not mine specifically. It is killing my business too, but it's killing the writer, any writer, editor, journalists, they're the hardest hit.
Exactly.
And we can't just ignore that. We have to either elevate ourselves to be able to deal with it or
Right, right,
become obsolete. And
right.
people think when you're over, back to your audience, when you're over 40, 50, 60, and I'm in my 70s, they can't use computers. Well,
No.
that's just barf.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. Yes, and you fought ageism in various forms. Of course, so many of the isms and the social injustice baked into the system, systemic injustice, is subconscious. So it's sometimes we don't understand maybe the level of stress that we encounter until we're out of the situation. So you got fired at 58. You formed Essay Resume at 63. Did you then kind of take a sigh of relief? Obviously, this woman fired everyone else, and then she got fired. So was it kind of like that? You had this realization after the fact, but while you're in it, you're just gutting through.
I have never looked at things like that.
Hmm. Okay,
I
so
I
so
have
does
no
it hasn't affected you
time
then?
I have no time for past regrets. I mean, I've had a really and we're not going to go into this, you don't have the day to do it. I had a really hard life. It's been really, I was almost homeless when I switched to resume writing with Top Resume. I was 1 week away from losing my apartment. I
Wow.
was almost in the street.
Mm.
So I went from middle class to dirt poor, food stamp poor.
Wow.
And then I worked my way up from scratch by myself. And I
Yeah.
worked hard.
Right.
What's funny is that usually the universe kind of takes care of itself for me. I have a similar situation where I had a boss who was really cruel to me. He was abusive, who later on, it just so happened through circumstances that 100 miles away and 5 years later, I quit because I couldn't stand him. He ended up being my boss again somewhere else.
Wow.
And I'm not going to go into that story, but suffice it to say that 6 months after he started, he was fired and I
Mm.
was offered his job. So
Interesting.
there you go. What
Yeah.
comes around goes around. And the
Mhm.
same with, no, I'm not celebrating this, but the end of my story, after the board of directors finally realized that this woman who fired her whole staff wasn't very good at her job, she
Right.
was fired. But unfortunately, no matter how I put this, it's going to sound awful. She died of cancer a few years later.
Mm.
So I'm not celebrating that in any way, shape, or form, but I'm thinking the universe has its way of dealing with people. It just does. And I don't have to think about it because, after all, what is a woman's life expectancy? 78? Although today women are living longer and longer, and I come from a long-lived family.
Mhm.
What are you going to do for all of those years? Are you going to sit there and be mad at everybody? Or are you
Mhm.
going to take that and put it forward into energy to elevate? My best revenge is success. I have been saying that since I was in my 20s. And
Yes.
my favorite saying is if at first you don't succeed, try again. There's no use being a damn fool about it. That's
Mm.
W.C. Fields.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So when you uh I was bringing up the ageism because it can continue to come up as I was doing my research, and yet I'm not suggesting that we languish in it. Rather, I think it's a more empowered view. If we've felt some pressure and a ceiling up on, right just about
Mm.
our eye level, then when we escape it, it's kind of like, okay, then okay, couple learnings. I'm not going to do that again. I'm not. If that's the first sign of something like that, I'm going. So it's just that it's a cumulative learning, I think, that allows us to escape any systemic injustice, and especially for a freedom fighter like you to move forward into your best self. And obviously, you had a number of talents into which you morphed, and congratulations, that's amazing. So yes, I picked up that you had clients in 31 US states, 23 countries, as you said, across 6 continents. And the board candidates, C-suite executives, and senior leaders, and the LinkedIn profiles and so forth, CVs, yes. And you distinguish yourself by earning the Certified Professional Resume Writer, CPRW. I'd never heard of that. And you became the first resume writer worldwide to receive board resume certification. So was that a new program or an existing program that just not many people did?
It's a new program that I actually was the kickoff for. One of the organizations I belong to is the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Counselors. We call it PARC for short. There are
Okay.
3 associations. That's the one I'm currently most active with. Um, that's where I earned my initial resume writing certification, the Certified Professional Resume Writer. They are considered the best certification in the business, and it's a testing sort of thing. It's not simple. Then and there is a trick to writing resumes. There's a specific format to it. Then I also belong to the National Resume Writing Association, the NRWA. That's where I was on the board of directors for 2 years until I cycled off. And there, I wanted to earn my career counseling certification, but I cycled out of it too early. Now I
Hmm.
belong also to CDI, Career Directors International. And I was talking to the leader of that, Laura is her name, And I said, nobody has a certification for board writing, and it is really different, totally different. I said, would you consider putting together a board certification for a certification for board writers? And I could be the first person through the program. And so
Absolutely.
I was, but I actually, because I was the first person through the program and because I knew so much, it morphed a little bit because of me.
Yes.
And I was the first person to earn it. There aren't that many board writers across the country. There's
Hmm.
only a handful of us.
Interesting.
People call themselves board writers, but that's not what they're writing. And when you see the difference, you can see it immediately.
Hmm.
So I would say I was told once by my mentor and by How Women Lead that I'm probably one of the top 10 or less board writers in the whole country.
Wow.
And I'm also the cheapest, the least expensive, because I want my services to be accessible. But you
Nice.
can pay up to $10,000 for this service. It takes 3 to 6 months to do the
Wow.
writing, huge amount of interviews, lots of questions to be answered, and then you can expect to take up to 2 years to even find a board that will put you on it.
Wow.
So it's a very big process. If you did the same process through a board search firm, um, I think it's Egon Zalander, James Drury Associates, there's a bunch of Deloitte, there's a bunch of board search firms. They started about 250,000 and they guarantee you a board at the end of that process. I don't guarantee anybody anything. I
Exactly.
guarantee them my best work. And their resume writers, for the most part, aren't very good. In fact, I spent a whole summer retraining one of those companies' resume writers on how to write a resume.
Wow.
So, because their main thing is they're a board search firm. So they match you with boards and find you a board. So I decided, what can I do for people where I do a little more than just write board resumes? And
Right.
I've actually expanded my services this year into all kinds of counseling. And I also design. It's another thing I've always been doing. I've been doing it for like since AOL. I've been doing it since computers hit people's desks. I
Yeah.
design websites.
Nice.
So
Wow. Well,
now I
hang
do
on.
career portfolio websites for my clients also.
Mhm.
But it's a full service thing.
Okay. Okay. I don't know if the date is right, but somewhere I picked up that 4 years ago you were recruited by the Board Placement Service as an executive writer, and the sentence that threw me off is that you discovered you had to throw out much of what you knew to learn a whole new set of rules. So, in terms of storytelling, that seems to carry forward from resume to board candidacy. But what else did you have to throw out that was seismically different?
Oh, formatting, AI, ATS systems.
Yeah, talk to us about ATS because I was reading about that and I don't understand it.
It's automated tracking software
Yes.
or
Uh-huh.
automated tracking systems. It's called both.
Yeah.
It's basically AI. It's the mailbox that you end up in when you send a resume in online.
Yes.
95% of them are going to end up in ATS. There's
Okay.
really just one kind of basic system, but there are hundreds, thousands of different iterations of it
Yes.
because each company can set it to their own rules.
Okay.
And it's looking for certain words, certain things from their job description that they want to see in there, certain bars to jump over.
Right.
So you go into these ATS systems, they are AI. They don't think outside the box. Okay. When that started, if it wasn't in plain language, done in a sans serif without the little feet, a sans serif font,
I got
in
you.
a specific way with certain size margins, in a specific order with specific wording and titles, AI couldn't read it
Mm.
and it would just throw it out. So I had to learn to write to AI back in, oh gosh, back in the long time ago. I had to learn to write to AI. That's when I discovered intentional and unintentional systemic bias. And then I started to work on how to get past bias. I think your audience would be really interested in just this one segue, aging. How not to tell your age in a resume without realizing you're telling your age. Two of the biggest things that people never think of, and these are both absolutely true and still stand today. Everybody uses Times New Roman if they're old.
Yeah.
And I use that word loosely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's AI knows that. They're programmed to recognize that.
Yes.
So they say Times New Roman, this person's over 40.
Yes.
Same thing with skipping 2 spaces after a period instead of
Yes,
1.
exactly. Everybody that's written a book knows that.
Okay, there you go. Writers know that. Your Joe in the street does not know that.
Exactly.
So they program it. Is she skipping 2 spaces after a period? AOL email addresses, Gmail addresses. So I started teaching people how to get past bias through
Yes.
an AI. When I went to board writing, nothing goes through that kind of system. You can write however you want in whatever format you want. So it's a lot more freedom. I tend to front load all the achievements and the most important things and
Sure.
backload the actual career onto page 2 because people read the top third of page, they read your headline. If they like that, just like a news story, then they'll go on to the top third of the page. If they like that, they might read the first page. Hardly anybody reads page 2. So you really need to get everything on page 1. This whole career on page 1. And then page 2, you list the jobs and the education, blah, blah, blah. So I had to learn a whole new language. Boards hate doers. They
Mm.
want thinkers. They don't want managers, they want advisors. You never use the word manager in a board resume. You never use the words, the 2 worst words in a board resume are responsible for. You never use those. You
Okay.
advise, you guide, you lead. Whole new language that I had to learn.
Okay.
Very upscale. You always want to put your stock ticker symbols in a board resume. Who has stock ticker symbols when they're applying for a job at a dentist's office? You know, I mean, it's a whole different thing. Where you went to college matters. If you went to Elizabethtown College for 1 year, like I did, nobody's ever heard of it and nobody cares. If you went to
Exactly.
Harvard, that's a whole network you can dig into. So you want that to appear front and center. Ego matters. If you worked for Fortune 500 firms, that's good. If you worked for Fortune 100 firms, that's better. If you worked for Fortune 50 firms, that goes in the top sentence.
Right
So
now.
I'm not going to go into all of it, but that's just a little bit of having to just really adjust my thinking.
Mm, mm, mm. And so be more specific about the stock ticker symbols. In other words, like if I'm applying to be on this board and it's a tech company, then I'm going to throw out tickers of tech companies and say, I noticed that your, ROI compared to,
Mhm.
TSY is, twice that, and I'm really commending you. I mean, is that what you're talking about in terms of stock ticker symbols? You're
I'm
not
talking about
divulging
the
your own investment.
actual, the stock exchange name. Um,
Well, I understand
like
that, but
Price Waterhouse Coopers, after I put that she worked at Price Waterhouse Coopers, in parentheses, I put PWC,
PwC, I got you. Okay,
NYSE,
fair
colon,
enough.
PWC,
Okay, good.
that kind of stock ticker
Yeah.
thing. And it's interesting, Deborah, that you're in finance because my top 3 subjects
Yeah,
are
finance and
ST,
tech and pharma.
finance, tech, and pharma.
So good. So
So,
good.
and I've written, I wrote for vice president of Abu Dhabi Bank. And that's writing that kind of technical, knowing the language too of the sector. Like
Yes.
you're throwing out ROI and things, and I understand all kinds of. So I just did the head of SOX at Kaiser Permanente Health Systems. He's the head of the entire SOX program there. What's SOX? Who knows who's what's? Well, I know all about SOX, So
Right.
it's a really different kind of learning.
Well, while you're at it, tell our audience. I
Tell
don't
our
want them
audience
looking up socks.
Oh, SOX, Sarbanes-Oxley Act. It's compliance related. It's having it's a compliance thing. I don't without going into a long explanation, but that's what it stands for. And
Exactly.
it's international.
hmm hmm And talk to me about the. I want to circle back to the storytelling because it's just everywhere, and you're so right in terms of people reading, and they might skim the front page, and probably the second and third not so much. So, do you kind of tease out the start of a story, like in that first or second paragraph, just to engage them, so that maybe they'll look to see how you finish the story, or how do you interweave the storytelling in with the Harvard and the
The
Pricewaterhouse?
first paragraph of a resume cannot be more than 5 to 6 lines long.
Yeah.
You don't tease anything out. But what
Yeah.
you do is you lay down little, what I call subheadlines.
Yeah.
Um, and I might say, for example, the woman at Price, well, I've done a bunch of people at Price Waterhouse. But the woman there, I think one of the things I said about her was, because I've done hundreds of clients now, I gave an example of, oh, wait, let's talk about the socks guy at Kaiser Permanente. His name is O'Cory Ramsey, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying that because he gave me a testimonial. It's right on my website. O'Cory, right in the beginning, on that front page, I put the teaser that when he completely reworked their socks program, it was the first time that Kaiser Permanente ever has gone through 8 annual audits in a row without a single finding.
That's
Now,
impressive.
that's the tease. Then you go on later on, and maybe on page 2, underneath the actual job description, you might give a little more information. But there's hardly any storytelling done in a resume except in the fact that you have to back up every statement you make with, this is what I did, this is how I did it, and this is what happened. It's called CAR, STAR, it's got lots of names, but challenge, action, result. And then it's followed up by a bio. The bio is where you start telling the stories. And that's where you start weaving all that together.
Okay.
Because that's done first person, and a resume is
Yes,
first person implied. You pretend you pretend I is the subject of every sentence. That's what first person implied means. Whereas a bio is written from third person.
exactly. Exactly. Thank you. Talk to us about the, integration and so forth of AI in terms that people are feeding various their AI agents various templates and so forth and so on. So, how have you have you written your own templates in using AI you're still presumably doing both resume writing and board writing, are you not?
I do, I would say 2/3, 1/3 anymore, 2/3 boards and 1/3 executive founder, that thing.
Okay. So how do you incorporate? Do you have your own templates in order to use AI?
I don't use AI.
I see. Okay. Interesting.
I use AI for research. It's helpful to me on research. I use
Hmm.
it for SEO, search engine optimization, keywording.
Right.
I use it for that sort of thing. I use something called, and here's a piece of advice for all your audience, Word Hippo.
Mm.
It's free. It's the best darn thesaurus online. It is just fantastic. So if I'm at a loss, sometimes, we all get writer's block. If I'm at a loss for what to say or a word to use, I'll go to a thesaurus first. And Word Hippo will list verb, adverb, noun, and a
It's act-
hundred different
yeah,
ones. They're
it's
really,
great.
really good. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but I
I
love them.
I am. Yeah, it's really
It's the
it's
best.
fine. Yes.
And if I can't do that, I might go to an unpaid version of ChatGPT and enter the sentence I wrote and tell them rewrite this and then look at what they come up with. And that might have a word I didn't think of, or it might maybe make in my head think
Sure.
of something else, but I have never used any AI to write anything.
Mhm.
I absolutely, it is the fastest way to failure, and it almost never works for my client base.
Mm.
It doesn't work for hardly any client base. And you read about that every day if you read LinkedIn and the news.
Mm.
AI is just making us all brain dead. But I can say something about that, but I don't want to take up all your time. There is so much bias in AI. so
Well,
much
no,
lies
absolutely no question about it.
that
White
I
young male beyond those.
yeah, we actually call that PMS, pale, male, and stale.
Mhm.
It is that's an actual resume writing term.
Wow.
Um, but it's very much prejudice, and I work mainly. My real thrust of what I'm doing now is working with underrepresented populations. My
Sure.
main client base are people of color, Asian Americans, people with disabilities, people over 50. I work mainly on trying to get these people past all this prejudice and into a job. One of the biggest things I'm working with right now is, do you remember in January, the government came out with a DEI negative word list, a banned word list.
Absolutely.
There are over 100 words on that. The words include Black, women,
Women.
women. If these words appear in a resume that is submitted to a corporation or a government agency, and they hire that person,
They could
they
be
can
fun.
be held liable for DEI and fined.
Yeah.
I work with a lot of African Americans.
Mhm.
Okori is one. I
Mhm.
can't put things on a resume anymore like he was the head of the Black Accountants Association.
Exactly.
That can no longer, identifiers like that can no longer go on a resume
Yeah.
unless he's okay with that and understands that that's going to kill. Do you know that 85% of resumes with Black names on them are the resumes with a Black name on it are read 85% less than resumes with a white name. I've made this a lifetime study for me. And that all comes from AI and everything you upload on AI becomes the property of Google and
Oh,
AI.
no question. No question.
So they can run
Except
it through.
except Notebook. Notebook LM, that's your own.
Okay, well, they can use that for anything they want. And in fact, I had an interview with Andy Lyons once, a podcast I did with her, and we talked about ageism.
Mhm.
And I was looking up images for a website the other day, and I wanted images for ageism. And by darn, there's my face
Hmm.
on Google Images because I posted a podcast announcement with our faces on it.
Sure.
You're everywhere. I'm everywhere online. If you look up Sandra Allison resume, you'll find out, well, you did it. You'll find out more about me than I know. So you have to realize it's not private. Don't upload a picture of yourself and ask them to turn it into something funny, because the next thing you know, you'll find it somewhere printed as a funny picture. That's another reason I steer clear of it. So, but AI is, back in the old days, we called it jumping on the bandwagon. What they do, it's groupthink. It's
Yes, of course.
groupthink. They've taken all of these people's opinions of everything. They put it all together, pulled out the majority, and it's groupthink. I just did an article on this for my website. And you'll like this, I had AI draw me a cartoon to graphically explain it. And they do a good job at that, but you
They
have to
do.
give it, you're talking about the templates now. Now here you have to know how to exactly to feed it to come out. And it's a picture of a bunch of sheep falling off a cliff. And one of the sheep is saying, but everybody does it. We can't all be wrong. And
Exactly.
I find it's good at that. But I have a sense of humor. A lot of people in my job don't have senses of humors because we work with people that don't have senses of humors.
Well, and you're really responsible at some level, Sandra, for, someone's employment. So are there not statistics out? I mean, you're talking about there are people that, write resumes that are horrible and so forth. Um, if I was in that business, I would be posting as you do. I think I saw something, 85% of my resume service clients have gotten a job within 6 months or something. There have to be kinds of proof texting, is there not? Because if your success rate is high, you want to be preaching that from the rooftops. Yeah.
Yeah, you do. But when you reach my level, you don't know most of the time. These are not the kind of people that get back to you and say, oh, by the way, thanks for that board resume. I found a board. These are very busy people that travel the world and have secretaries who have secretaries. And they don't tell you if things worked out. The way I find out if things worked out is because I look them up. I keep in touch. I see where they're going and what they're doing.
Hmm.
And occasionally they do come back to me. I do have a lot of return customers.
I was going to
It's
say, yeah,
testimonials also. If they say in a
exactly.
testimonial, yeah. So I really depend on, again, you can say anything you want. You can say 95% of my customers are successful. What does that mean exactly? Did they get an
Mhm.
interview, or did they actually get a job? And was it in the field that you did? And
Mhm.
maybe, but a resume is only 1/3 of the process. The other 2/3 are how you apply, because you don't spray and pray. And the third is your interview, because honestly, your resume is just a foot in the door. The interview is going to get you the job or lose you the
Seals the
job.
deal, right, right, right.
That's
Exactly,
exactly
exactly.
right.
Yeah. So then do you give your people for whom you're writing resumes tips and tools for how to conduct themselves in the person, well, either Zoom interviews or in-person interviews?
I didn't, but I do now, because that's career coaching.
Yes,
And
exactly.
this year I've added transitioning, job transitioning, because many of my people are job transitioning at this point.
Hmm.
So I have a whole program on that, and I have a program that I'm just starting to pull together on interviewing techniques. I do have some tip pages on that. And I give a lot of what we called in Louisiana lagniappe. When I'm finished with a job, I throw in a little extra something for nothing.
Yes.
And that can be a tip or a hint or anything,
Mhm.
because because I'm in this to make a difference. I'm not in this to earn, well, yeah, I need to earn money. I'm not going to kid you. My
Right.
my Social Security does not even pay my rent.
Yeah.
I'll be working the rest of my life. Good luck to all of you. You need this. So
Yes. Mhm.
yeah, but my success is mainly the fact that I have one client I did 3 years ago who has referred 12 more clients to me, who
Sweet.
have referred another 10 to me. That's how I can tell I'm successful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I couldn't agree more with the AI bias and the hallucinations and so forth and so on. So we
Mm.
really have to be completely cautious. But I like the idea of throwing a sentence in there and seeing how it may give us an even a word. I mean, I love a word. I love words. So one word, one
Mm.
good word. Um, I found Notebook LM. I love that because it's not like on Putin's desk the next millisecond. So that to me is a safer space, and I enjoy that very much. Talk to us about Elder Goddess.
Oh, that's my handle.
I
Um,
Later in life. How old were you when you started gaming?
30.
Okay, okay. I thought it was later. Okay, great.
I know, 30, but doesn't that tick something off in your head? I was 30. That's 1983.
Early
Well,
on.
so what happened in 1983? You didn't have personal computers.
Yeah, yeah.
They weren't there yet. I graduated from high school before calculators were invented. So we didn't use abacuses, but we didn't have calculators either.
Yeah.
I started computer gaming. My father was a US chess champ, and I was a chess player by 6. And I started computer gaming through Games Magazine. It's still around today. In the back
Interesting.
of Games Magazine, they advertised a computer game, and people from all over the country signed up for it. I was one of several hundred. What we did was they sent us a punch card, and every 2 weeks we filled out the punch card and sent it back. And they put all of those punch cards through a mainframe and then sent us the results of our turns. And then we sat with our graph paper and we decided what we were going to do next. It was a space game. And we sent our next, so every 2 weeks you got a turn. Um, yeah, I started gaming on mainframes before personal computers came around.
Yeah.
I played that game for 2 years. I did make a couple of friends, and I discovered out of 200 players, I was the only girl,
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt
the
it at all.
only woman in the whole game. And I ended up on the winning team.
Yeah.
So all the men
That,
were protecting me, and I told them to stop it, but I could handle myself.
Exactly. And I know that as some women have come into gaming, they'll take a non-gender specific name intentionally
Oh
because
yeah,
of the blowback. So,
yeah.
but Elder Goddess, you know,
But
you're out
Elder Goddess did come along later. I mean, that
Oh,
I started playing computer games then and raised my son on my knee on computer games from the time he was 3 years old. He was watching me play and then playing with me.
that's
And I mean, it's my life. I'm sitting in a $500 gaming chair right now.
that's funny.
And,
Yeah.
and so I started when I was in my 50s and I started playing. Then I took the name Elder Goddess, which I thought was a pretty cool name because I was an older woman who was playing games.
Right
And
now.
actually, I've got comments through the gaming community that they think it's a pretty cool game name.
Name, yes.
And I still do it. I mean, I still do it. If I'm not looking things up at 2 a.m., I am shooting zombies at 2 a.m. I don't mean casual gaming. I mean hardcore gaming, where
Yeah.
you chase and build civilizations and kill zombies. And um, I I am not a gun advocate. Okay, sorry about that, anybody, but I'm not. I don't like guns, but I know my guns because I shoot them in my games.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
that if people find that disconnecting, what's cool about the games, people don't realize how valuable they are to life skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to play single player games. I don't like to deal with online teenagers. Okay, I
Teams.
have to
Okay.
admit that.
Okay.
They're not nice.
Yeah.
But this is why I type 90 words a minute. This
Right.
is why my hand-eye coordination is amazing.
Right. Right.
This is
Right.
why I can think really fast and pivot.
Yeah.
Because when you've got 35 zombies attacking you from all sides at once and you're just the person with a sword, you've got to move.
You've got it. You've got
So,
it. You've got a zig and you've got a zag.
yeah, but I don't, a lot of my, if I really get to know a client well and we hit it off, I'll tell them I'm a gamer and they all think it's cool. But a lot of my clients, I don't think I would be hired in the first place if I told them that.
Oh,
It's
that's
just too different.
that's interesting.
So
Yeah.
how authentic do you want to be? That's a big conversation now too, Deborah. How authentic can you be? Everybody's screaming about being authentic on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Haha, no.
Right, right. Yeah, I think there's a whole layer of judicious deliberation,
Mm,
and I think we're wise to be conservative, especially at this time. And so, you know, pick your relationships, and then you're, you know, hopefully doing a one-on-one with that person. So I'm cautious on that as well. Well, this has been rich beyond words. This
oh,
the gaming and the whole various levels of career advancement and turning you know, chaos into clarity. The term was given to me in the one of the sources that it's a playful nod to your age and your unyielding rebellion against age stereotype. Your
uh-huh.
personality is a mix of childlike boldness, intellectual precision, and a
Uh-huh.
refusal to let generational stereotypes define your ambitions. So, tell us
And
how our viewing audience can reach you.
we all need to do that. We all need to, age is not just a number. I know I only have a minute, but age is not just a number, okay? I hate when people say that age is just a number because I have the type 2 diabetes and the high blood pressure and the hip joint problems to prove it. But
Yes,
that doesn't
exactly.
stop my mind from growing or my
Exactly.
enthusiasm or anything. Don't ever let it hold you back. And I have had ageism held against me since I was 18 years old because I am a 5'1" freckle faced carrot top.
Got you
Try to
covered.
get a job when you look like you're 12 and you're applying
Exactly.
for a serious job. And now at the same end, most people think I'm in my late 50s to early 60s,
Yes.
and I'm not. I'm going to my mid 70s here.
Love it.
So, but I've never felt discriminated against as a woman. And that think that's more my mindset than anybody else's. So keep that in mind, people. You nobody can make you feel discriminated against. They can
Right.
discriminate against you, but they can't make you feel that.
But
And
it can
there are
make you feel
always
anything.
ways to get past it. I am Sandra Allison. I go by Sandra because I absolutely hate the name Sandy. And it's saresumeservices.com.
Excellent.
My website was designed by me, but it's coming down next week. I've completely designed a new website, new pricing, new offerings. I've extended my services. Any of you who get in touch with me who need help with transitioning or with bias or you're just trying to find it, whatever, anybody that wants to talk, just please give me you can message me through my site. My identity was stolen 3 times this year. My professional identity has already been stolen 3 times this year because people apparently want to be me.
Hmm.
So I'm very cautious about things. But I would also be happy to take that into consideration if you decide to sign on for any of my services. I would be happy to take into consideration uh, a discount because I'm glad that you're listening. I think Deborah supplies an absolutely wonderful forum here for this kind of conversation. And always, always grab for the brass ring. That's right on the front page of my website. And I hope we're all old enough to remember what a brass ring means
Absolutely.
on a
Absolutely.
carousel. I actually did that in Paris because in my entire life, don't ever, don't ever fail because you didn't try. I wish
Absolutely.
you all the best.
Thank you so much. And we'll have all that information in the show notes for everyone to access. So thank you, Sandra. And thank you, viewers, for joining us on the We Can Do It Women show. Remember, I see you, I value you, and your greatest chapter is just beginning. If today's episode sparks something in you, I invite you to reinvent yourself, to fan some of those embers, maybe deep inside where you've always kind of wondered, hey, could I? And I want you to take that first step. And until we meet again, pay attention to your money. It will surely pay you back.